In a house full of geniuses, I always ranked dead last. My brother, Lance, was a genius physicist in the making. My sister, Raven, was already earning awards for psychological research before most people finished high school. My parents adored intelligence the way some people worship religion. And me? I always ranked last. Not just in school. In their hearts, too. To them, I wasn't their daughter. I was a research subject, a living case study, a convenient example of failure. When Lance wanted to test spatial awareness and survival instincts, he locked me inside an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. The place was a labyrinth of rusted machinery and collapsing corridors. Broken windows let in thin blades of sunlight during the day and freezing wind at night. For 24 hours, I wandered through that maze alone. No food, no water, no phone. Every turn looked the same. Every hallway led nowhere. By the time they finally found me, my lips were cracked, my vision blurred, and my body had collapsed beside a rusted conveyor belt. I still remembered Mom rushing over. For one desperate second, I thought she was worried about me. Then I heard her voice. She gently wiped the sweat from Lance's forehead. Next time, watch the timing, sweetheart. Shelley's fragile. Her expression softened with concern. Concern for him. She can't handle this much stress. Not a single word about what I'd endured. Not one. Later, Raven decided to study emotional resilience. The result? She shredded my high school diploma into thousands of tiny pieces. White scraps fluttered through the air like snow. I spent hours on my bedroom floor gathering them with trembling fingers, trying to piece together the certificate I'd worked so hard to earn. Dad knocked on the door that evening. His voice was gentle, patient, the same voice he always used when explaining scientific theories. Raven is helping you break free from the limitations of standardized education. I stared at the shredded paper scattered around me. You should appreciate her intentions. The last experiment was the one that killed me. They called it placebo-based physiological intervention in low-cognition individuals. A title so sophisticated it almost disguised its cruelty. Almost. I suffered from severe asthma. Everyone in the house knew that. They replaced my emergency inhaler with a saline solution. Then they waited, observed, recorded, collected data. When the attack came, it hit like a truck. My chest tightened. My lungs felt as if invisible hands were squeezing them shut. I grabbed the inhaler and pressed down desperately. Again, again, again. Nothing. Only a faint mist of salt water. Panic consumed me. I bit through the plastic mouthpiece. The taste of blood mixed with saline flooded my mouth. I clawed at the wooden floor so hard that splinters embedded themselves beneath my fingernails. Dark red streaks marked the floorboards behind me. Still no one came. No one knocked. No one asked if I was okay. Outside my room, they were discussing future research projects. By the time darkness swallowed my vision, I finally understood something. My greatest mistake wasn't being stupid. It wasn't ranking last. It wasn't disappointing them. My greatest mistake was being born into this family. Subject Shelley's monitor has shown a flat line for 3 hours. Raven's voice cut through the silence. Detached. Clinical. Almost bored. I floated near the bedroom ceiling, staring down at my own body. My skin had already begun turning a bluish purple. One door away, my family sat comfortably in the living room, laughing, eating cake, celebrating. Raven lounged on the leather couch with a tablet balanced on her knees. Her eyes scanned graphs and statistics. The pseudo-death avoidance response should be reaching its peak. She sounded as though she were discussing laboratory mice. Not her sister. Lance adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. Don't bother checking. He calmly sliced a Black Forest cake into perfectly measured portions. Once hunger overrides pride, she'll come out on her own. He smiled faintly. Low-cognition individuals have poor endurance. The dehydration experiment already confirmed that. Mom practically glowed with pride. She handed him the largest slice. Eat more, sweetheart. Her eyes sparkled. First place in the national physics competition again. We're so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. Lance accepted the plate with flawless manners. Dad raised his wine glass. Ruby red liquid swirled beneath the chandelier lights. Our family genes really are exceptional. He chuckled. Raven won the Psychology Innovation Award last month, too. A double celebration. Crystal glasses touched. A clear, cheerful chime echoed through the room. The perfect family. The brilliant family. The happy family. I looked down at my transparent hands and laughed bitterly. The sound never reached them. 3 hours earlier, I had been dying only a few feet away. Now, I was already dead. And they hadn't even noticed. Or perhaps, they simply didn't care. Suddenly Mom paused. A small crease appeared between her brows. Wait. She swallowed a bite of cake. Shelley hasn't left her room all day. The realization seemed almost accidental. Like remembering an old piece of furniture existed somewhere in the house. Dad waved dismissively. She ranked last again. He took another sip of wine. She's probably hiding because she's embarrassed. Let her think about her mistakes. My laughter grew colder. I ranked last because Lance had left me trapped inside a factory for an entire day. I could barely hold a pen during exam. But facts never mattered here. Only results. Only success. Only genius. Mom sighed. Despite everything, she cut the largest piece of strawberry cake and placed it carefully on a clean plate. Honestly, Shelley's always been a sweet child. She stood up. I'll check on her. I don't want her starving herself. For the first time in years, hope flickered inside me. Tiny. Fragile. Ridiculous. But there. Go, Mom. Open the door. Look at me. See what your experiments have done. See your daughter lying dead on the floor. Just once. Choose me. Before she could take a second step, Raven grabbed her wrist. Mom. Mom turned. What is it? Raven lifted her tablet. Her expression remained perfectly serious. The intervention study is at a critical stage. A graph glowed on the screen. If you enter now, you'll compromise the placebo effect data. Mom hesitated. Raven continued. This paper is being submitted jointly by Lance and me. Her voice sharpened. Interfering with the experiment would be academic misconduct. The words worked instantly. Academic misconduct. Those two words carried more weight than my life ever had. Mom slowly withdrew her hand. Lance dabbed his lips with a napkin. Scientific progress always requires sacrifice. Dad nodded in agreement. Exactly. He patted Mom's shoulder. It's about making efficient use of resources. Resources. Not daughter. Not family. Resources. Mom looked at the strawberry cake for a long moment. Then she quietly placed it back on the table. I watched the pink cream slowly soften and melt beneath the warm lights. Just like the final illusion I'd been holding on to. The illusion that somewhere beneath all their brilliance, they still loved me. Dad scoffed. As if she hasn't pulled this act before. His expression darkened. When Raven destroyed her diploma, she locked herself in her room pretending to be the victim. I closed my eyes. Even now, even after death, I was still the problem, still the disappointment, still the experiment, never the daughter. And what did she do in return? Dad scoffed. She didn't appreciate it at all. She even had the nerve to give us attitude. Raven let out a light giggle, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. Dad, that's a classic case of learned helplessness. Low cognition individuals often regress when faced with stimuli beyond their comprehension. She smiled proudly. I was only helping broaden her emotional threshold. Mom's eyes immediately softened. She reached over and stroked Raven's head affectionately. Our Raven really is a genius. Her voice overflowed with pride. So young, yet already understanding things most adults can't. Then she glanced toward my bedroom. The warmth vanished from her face instantly. If only Shelley were half as smart as the two of you. I almost laughed. If ghosts could laugh. Instead, I drifted through the hallway and stopped outside my bedroom door. Inside, my body remained exactly where it had fallen. One hand still clutched the tampered inhaler. My lifeless eyes stared toward the narrow crack beneath the door, as though even in death I had been waiting for someone to come. Anyone. Lance. Raven frowned at her tablet. The subject's heart rate monitor has shown a flat line for hours. She tapped the screen. Could the bracelet be malfunctioning? Lance barely looked up. Then he walked over and examined the data. Impossible. His tone was absolute. I modified that medical-grade sensor myself. A moment later, Raven removed the bracelet signal from her display and tossed the device aside. A childish attention-seeking tactic. Dad shook his head. That girl wastes all her intelligence on pointless things. Ignore her, he continued. Once she's hungry enough, she'll crawl out and apologize. Mom yawned as she began clearing the dinner table. All right, everyone. Get some sleep. She smiled at Lance. Big awards ceremony tomorrow. The family gradually dispersed. The house grew quiet. Hours later, long after midnight, Dad sat alone in the study. A warm desk lamp cast a golden circle of light over an old photo album. Curiously, he flipped it open. I drifted closer. There, frozen beneath a sheet of plastic, was a picture of me at 5 years old. I was wearing a frilly pink princess dress. My bare feet splashed through ocean waves. My face glowed with pure happiness. Back then, I didn't have asthma. Back then, nobody called me low cognition. Back then, I was simply their daughter. Mom entered carrying a mug of warm milk. What made you dig out those old photos? Dad sighed. His finger brushed across the picture. She was adorable then. A small smile touched his lips. Remember how she'd chase the waves and keep yelling, "Daddy, come play with me?" For a moment, genuine softness appeared in his eyes. Then he frowned. Do you think we've been too hard on her? Mom's expression wavered. Only for a second. Then the familiar certainty returned. Carter, you're being sentimental. She sat beside him. We're doing this for her own good. Dad remained silent. Mom continued confidently. With geniuses like Lance and Raven around her, she'll become stronger. The world isn't kind. She took a sip of milk. If we don't push her now, someone else will crush her later. I stared at them in disbelief. Push me? Was that what they called it? Locking me inside an abandoned factory? Destroying the diploma I'd spent years earning? Replacing life-saving medication with salt water? Dad slowly nodded. You're right. He closed the album. No pain, no gain. The drawer slid shut, burying the photos, burying the memory. Once she's finished reflecting, I'll make it up to her. The words sounded almost laughable. A soft set of footsteps interrupted them. Lance walked past my bedroom carrying an infrared thermometer. He paused outside the door, raised the device. A red beam flashed. He studied the reading. His brows lifted slightly. Interesting. Room temperature decreasing. He glanced at the display again. Body surface temperature approaching environmental equilibrium. Then he chuckled. The sound sent a chill through me. She's even lowering her metabolism intentionally. What dedication. She really knows how to play dead. I screamed. I'm not pretending. I'm dead. I'm right here. My voice shattered into the empty hallway. No one heard. No one ever would. Lance simply turned away and disappeared into his room. The door clicked shut. Mom remained in the study a little longer. Eventually she stood, still looking troubled. I'll make her some orange juice. Dad nodded absent-mindedly. Go easy on the sugar. She gains weight easily. Mom headed to the kitchen. Minutes later, she arrived outside my bedroom carrying a glass of freshly squeezed juice. The citrus scent drifted through the hallway. Shelley? Knock. Knock. Mom made orange juice for you. Silence. Inside the room, my body had already begun changing. Blood had settled beneath the skin. My limbs were becoming rigid. The first signs of death were quietly advancing. Outside the door, Mom sighed. Drink it after you've calmed down. Still no answer. Her patience began wearing thin. Stop being stubborn. Another pause. Then irritation replaced concern. Why are you always like this? We're family. What's wrong with making a few sacrifices? The word struck harder than any slap. With an angry huff, she placed the glass on the floor. The liquid sloshed against the rim. Drink it or don't. You, and that awful attitude. Then she walked away. The hallway fell silent once more. The orange juice sat untouched. Just like me. Hours passed. Through a crack in the window, several flies found their way inside. Their buzzing filled the room. They circled lazily above my body. The next morning, an unpleasant odor began spreading through the house. A mixture of decay and something sour. Neighbor Professor Leon stopped by to borrow a few books. The moment he stepped inside, he wrinkled his nose. Carter, what's that smell? Plumbing issue? Raven sat comfortably on the couch eating a sandwich. Without missing a beat, she smiled. Professor Leon, Lance is conducting an anaerobic fermentation experiment using organic material. A little gas escaped. Her innocent expression was flawless. He's gathering environmental data. Professor Leon looked impressed. Remarkable. He nodded approvingly. Those 2 children of yours are extraordinary. So young and already conducting research at this level. Dad smiled modestly. At least outwardly. But pride practically radiated from him. Oh, they're just playing around. His voice was humble. His eyes were anything but. Professor Leon glanced around the house. By the way, where's your eldest daughter? I don't see Shelley. She's usually out on the balcony memorizing vocabulary by this hour. Dad's smile froze. Just for an instant. Shelley isn't feeling well. She's resting. The professor accepted the answer and eventually left. As soon as the door closed, Lance emerged from his room. He wore a pristine white lab coat. A powerful flashlight rested in his hand. His expression was serious. The placebo trial has exceeded acceptable parameters. Everyone looked at him. He adjusted his glasses. Preparing pupil light stimulation protocol.
Mom stopped mopping.
Dad lowered his newspaper. Lance continued calmly. Extended low-energy states can result in irreversible neurological damage. Forced arousal may be necessary. For the first time, genuine concern appeared on Mom's face. She grabbed his arm. Lance, stop. What if she has an asthma attack? I'll go get her myself. Dad stood as well.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. He grabbed his coat from a hanger. We've let this drag on long enough. A faint smile appeared on his face. I'll buy her that imported allergy medicine she's always asking for. And that giant teddy bear. The one she likes. He shook his head. We'll have to spoil her a little. After all. A chuckle escaped him. She's the dumb one in the family. I watched him hurry out the door. And for the first time since dying, something hurt worse than the asthma ever had. That teddy bear. I remembered it perfectly. Years ago, I had begged for it on my birthday. Every store window. Every catalog page. Every holiday. I had wanted it so badly. But nobody listened. Now, after I was dead, suddenly it mattered. Too late. Everything was too late. While their parents busied themselves, Raven quietly walked to my bedroom door. She lay flat on the floor and peered underneath. A spark of excitement flashed in her eyes. Lance. Come look. Lance crouched beside her. A strand of dull, lifeless hair protruded from beneath the door. Raven immediately began typing notes. Subject's hair has lost luster. Possible endocrine imbalance due to prolonged psychological suppression. Lance adjusted his glasses.
Not only that.
He examined it carefully. This level of keratin degradation suggests nutritional deficiency.
He stood.
Record everything. These physiological changes are valuable data. His voice remained cold. Excellent material for studying physical regression in low-cognition individuals. I stared at them. Revulsion churned inside me. Not siblings. Not family. Researchers examining a corpse. Half an hour later, the front door opened. Dad returned carrying several shopping bags. His face was flushed with excitement. Shelley, Daddy bought the bear you always wanted. He proudly carried an enormous teddy bear into the living room. Its soft brown fur looked almost comically cheerful. He set it on the couch and patted its head. This thing cost half my monthly bonus. Mom sighed. Well, you've bought it now. If it gets her to calm down, I suppose it's worth it. Dad cleared his throat and walked toward my bedroom. He stopped outside the door. Shelley? His voice softened. Daddy's back. I bought the bear. And the imported medicine. Come out and take a look, okay? The hallway remained silent. No footsteps. No answer. No movement. Only the quiet stillness of death waiting patiently behind the door. Dad stood outside my door for a long time. Long enough that his knees must have started to ache. He was 61 years old. He told me once that he always felt it in his joints when the weather changed. I used to notice things like that. Used to bring him his heating pad without being asked. He probably didn't remember.
His voice was different now.
The cheerfulness had gone out of it. What remained was something thinner. Something almost uncertain. I know you're angry. A pause. I floated close to the door. A ghost pressing against the grain of the wood, listening. This was the closest thing to an apology he had ever constructed. I knew, because I had spent my entire life memorizing the architecture of his silences, the grammar of his hesitations, waiting for a sentence that never quite finished. Sweetheart. He hadn't called me that in years. I had almost forgotten he knew the word. I wanted to open the door for him. Even now. Even dead. Even after everything. Some part of me, the 5-year-old in the frilly pink dress, the one chasing waves and screaming daddy, come play, still wanted to. But I couldn't. And not because I was a ghost. Because the door opened from the inside. And I had stopped being able to reach things a long time before I died. Dad waited another minute. Then he let out a long breath, the kind that comes from somewhere below the lungs, from a place men like him rarely acknowledged. He picked up the orange juice Mom had left on the floor, set it aside, so nobody would step on it. Then he went back to bed. The bear sat on the couch all night. Nobody moved it. Its plastic eyes caught the light from the street. Empty and cheerful. Patient in the way that only objects can be. Morning came in the usual way.
Coffee.
The sound of Lance's shower running exactly 9 minutes. Raven's alarm at 6:15. The soft shuffle of Mom's slippers across the kitchen tile. The ordinary machinery of a family that had not yet understood what it had done. It was Lance who finally opened my door. He told himself it was for the data. He would write that in his notes later. Entered subject's room at 7:04 a.m. to assess physiological state following extended isolation protocol. But I watched his face when he pushed the door open. I watched the exact moment the clinical language left him. His hand dropped from the doorframe. The flashlight he'd been carrying fell to the floor. It rolled slowly until it bumped against the baseboard and stopped.